So welcome back to your mats, everyone. I thought what I would do today, I've had a couple of requests for a little shorter duration and a little bit more basic vinyasa flow sorts of classes. So what I thought I would do today is in the sort of tradition of Ashtanga vinyasa yoga, to just start by doing a 5 to 10 minute warm-up with sun salutations. And so I'll break down the sun salutations A and B a little bit. We'll go through 2 or 3 rounds of each of those just to get the body warmed up. So that's traditionally how we start an Ashtanga yoga class. And then we'll transition into a focus just on some of the really basic fundamental standing poses. And then we'll finish up with just some quick stretching. I'll make a subsequent video shortly coming up where we'll focus on some poses that are on the mat more so than standing poses, and so we'll work to do those videos subsequently, probably also shorter duration, and I'll try to give you as many modifications as I can in terms of ways to make getting into the poses and holding poses a little bit more accessible to everyone. So thanks for joining me, and I will see you on your mat. Okay, so to start, we'll start with the warm-up that I mentioned to really warm up the entire body. So you'll be working sort of the back body, the front body, really getting the spinal cord warmed up, getting, the legs conditioned to be able to move more effectively into the standing postures. So we'll start with sun salutations, or Surya Namaskar A. We'll go through a couple of rounds of half sun A first, and then I'll take you through the full sun A. We'll do a couple of rounds, and then we'll transition into sun salutation B, and then we'll start with some warrior poses. So you'll join me at the top of your mat with your feet. You can sort of take a stance that's comfortable for you. We usually start in mountain pose, Tadasana, the Sanskrit. And so you can take the feet hips distance if that feels more stable. Generally, you can start with just the feet under the hips, maybe the toes touching some space between the heels. And again, you want to think about stacking joints on top of one another here. So you'll stack your head, your shoulders, your hips, your knees, your ankles, and think a little bit, bring some awareness to the spine. Some of our tendency is to arch the back. See if you can maybe draw the low ribs in a little bit, igniting up the abdominal muscles here, straightening out the spine, taking a little bit of that excess curve out of the low spine. And we can start with our hands at heart center, or we can start with palms facing forward along the sides of the hands. And from here, the first step in the sun salutation is to inhale and reach the arms up high. Maybe draw the palms together. And if it's okay on your neck, take the gaze up towards your thumbs. If that doesn't feel okay for you in your body, just look forward. Maybe draw the palms together. If that still brings a lot of tension into the shoulders, keep the hands wide and turn your pinkies in to create some space around the ears. So we'll inhale and lift, and then exhale, fold forward over your legs. Uttanasana, or forward fold. So you exhale all the air out as you let the head hang heavy. And from here, in your Uttanasana, you can take a big bend in your knees, if that feels nice on the low back, particularly when you're first starting. And then just let the head hang here. You can come into ragdoll if you want, and to grab opposite elbows, maybe sway side to side to wake up the spine a little. And then releasing the hands down. And then on your next breath in, we'll lengthen out the spine. So flatten the back, draw the low ribs in, send the hips to the back of the room. Maybe you plant your palms on your thighs and draw your elbows back. And to start, you can keep the neck nice and long and just gaze forward, pulling the belly in toward the spine. And as you get a little advanced in your practice, you may be able to look forward. You may be able to draw the fingertips and lengthen the spine from here. You can always, if you have blocks available, you can always bring hands to blocks as you lengthen out the spine. This step occurs on a breath in, and then exhale and you fold forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, you root down, rise all the way up to stand. Exhale takes you forward as you fold over your legs. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthen out the spine here. Exhale and fold. We'll go through one more Hasana. Inhale, rise to stand. Exhale and you fold. Inhale, lengthen the back. Exhale, fold over your legs. So you can play around with different forward fold positions if you want. You can take a Padangusthasana, so you can heel toe the feet out hips distance or maybe wider. And then you take the peace fingers, so your index and middle finger, wrap it around your big toe. Wrap your peace fingers around your other big toe. Maybe take a bend in the knees. Let the head hang heavy and then draw the elbows out to the sides. And so here you're pressing into your fingers with your big toes, taking some weight into the balls of your feet. And you're also pulling up with the fingers. So there's this opposition. Take a breath in. Maybe lengthen the spine here. Exhale and fold forward. Elbows draw to the sides of the room. And again, you can keep a bend in the knees or you can begin to straighten them. Just a variation on Uttanasana. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, plant your hands. We'll step back, high plank pose. So moving into a full Surya Namaskar A or Sun Salutation A. We would end up here in a high plank pose, drawing the belly in, heels over the balls of the feet. Really externally rotate those upper arms, pressing into the index finger and thumb, into the knuckles, keeping the neck long, and then you can always lower down to the knees from here. So from here, we'll lower all the way down to the belly. Going through this vinyasa flow, you can keep the hands planted here, untuck the toes, you can take the feet wide. And then on a breath in, you're going to lift the head and the chest, keeping the weight in the palms very light. Draw the elbows out behind you. Inhale, cobra pose, Bhujangasana. Exhale and fold. We'll try that one more time. Inhale and lift up cobra pose. So this back bend is where you're working in the back, pressing through the tops of the feet. Exhale and you fold forward. And then we make our way to downward facing dog. Pressing here into the palms of the hands. Take the hands wide, the fingers wide. And if your shoulders are tight, you can always turn your hands out just a little bit. That might help. And then you can take a deep bend in the knees and really think about, in your downward facing dog, lengthening the sides of the body and lengthening the spine. So press into the palms of the hands. Send the sit bones up and back. Draw the low ribs in just a little bit. And don't worry if your heels don't touch the floor. Over time, over your practice, you'll get to a point where you can draw the heels down and maintain the length in the spine. Take a big breath in here. Open your mouth and let all your air out. Inhale again, and we'll just make our way to the front of our mat. So you can tiptoe forward. And we inhale and come into our halfway lift, lengthening the spine. Exhale and you fold forward. Inhale, root down, reach out and up, rise all the way up to stand. Exhale, hands to heart center, Samatisi. So we'll go through one more sun salutation. Inhale, reach the arms high. Exhale and you fold over your legs. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, plant your hands down, step back, high plank pose. From here, we lower all the way down to the belly, taking that flow. Alternatively, you can leave the knees lifted and take the chaturanga or the half push-up where you lower down halfway before taking your back bend of choice. If you're new to yoga, you can lower the knees down, lower your belly down. Inhale, cobra pose. Exhale, press the hips back, downward facing dog. And then on your inhale, you make your way to the front of your mat. Exhale and fold. Inhale, root down, rise all the way up to stand. Exhale, hands to heart center. So that's one complete cycle of Surya Namaskar A. And from here, we'll go through Sun Salutation B, just slight variation on the previous warm-up. So from here, inhale your hands high. Maybe your palms come to touch. Exhale, we sink our hips down and back, coming into chair pose. Sanskrit for chair pose is Utkatasana. So here you can take your feet hips distance, or you can keep them a little bit more narrow. You can take a block if you have one between the thighs or between the calves and squeeze into the block. Send the hips way back behind you. Draw the low ribs in just a tad. And if your shoulders are tight and you're new, you can just draw your hands to heart center. Squeeze through the backs of the legs, squeeze through the tush in your chair pose. Alternatively, you can lift the arms. You can cactus the arms. Take a big breath here. Exhale and you fold forward over your legs. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, plant your hands down, step back, high plank pose. Inhale, lower all the way down. Exhale, down to the mat. Inhale, cobra or your back bend of choice. Exhale, downward facing dog. From your down dog, you'll draw your right foot between your hands. And if this is a hard stretch to actually plant your foot up between the hands, which it often is, that's okay. You can just go as far as you can. Use your right hand to give you a little assist until you come into this low lunge position, right? Alternatively, if you're in your downward facing dog, you can walk the toes to the front of your mat, root the feet down, rise all the way up to stand. And from here, take your low lunge, so step your left toes back. Right toes forward. From here, we're coming into Warrior One, Virabhadrasana 1. So from your low lunge, you'll go ahead and you're on the ball of your back foot. You're going to spin your heel flat to the floor. Your toes are pointing to the upper left corner of your mat. You're pressing into the outside edge of that left foot. The foot is planted. Your right knee is over your right ankle. And if you feel wobbly, take your feet wide on your mat. Set your base up here and then inhale, lifting up. Coming into the strong Warrior One. Again, you can always lower the arms down. You can cactus the arms. You can draw the hands to heart center. So you have a little bit of spinning that left thigh inward. We're drawing the right hip back. And you can take the feet wide here. So make sure your right knee's not coming too far forward. You want to have the knee over the ankle or a little bit behind the ankle. And then squeeze through that outer glute muscle so that you draw your low belly in. And then just imagine taking your torso, your rib cage, maybe put your hands on your ribs and spin your ribs open to the right, just a little here. Take a big breath in. Exhale, you plant your hands down, Step back, high plank pose. Inhale as you lower. Exhale as you lower down. Inhale, rise up, cobra pose. Exhale, downward facing dog. And again, from here you can plant the left foot forward to come into your warrior one. You can use that little left hand assist to get you there. Or like I said before, you can make your way to the top of your mat and step back. This time on the other side, we spin the right heel flat, toes coming to a 45-degree angle or pointing toward the upper right corner of your mat this time, taking our warrior one on the right or on the left side. Take a big breath in here. Exhale, plant your hands down. Step back, high plank pose. You can lower the knees down. Take a breath in. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, cobra pose. Exhale, downward facing dog. Really nice. Take a big breath in through your nose. Exhale out, and you can just come down to a child's pose. So child's pose, send the hips back behind you. Hips towards your heels. You can keep the knees together, or you can open them up wide and sink in a little deeper. So we just went through Surya Namaskar A, Surya Namaskar B, which is the variation of that flowing sequence that includes chair pose and warrior one. So those are sort of what we use in typical vinyasa flow classes to warm the body up before we make our way into transitions of other poses. And so what we'll do now is go through a few of the standing poses with some modifications. And just some breath work, just finding some ways to sit in the poses for 3 breaths or so. So come back to tuck your toes, come back to your downward facing dog. Really nice, take a big breath in and out. And then as you inhale, rise up on your toes, maybe step forward on the toes a little bit. Begin to bend the knees and look forward, and you can take steps to the top of your mat. You can stay on the toes. You can take 1 step or multiple steps to the front of your mat. Fold forward. Really nice. From here we root down, we rise all the way up to stand. Exhale, hands to heart center. From here, we'll go ahead and just take a wide stance on our mat. So here, your toes are pointed forward, heels are pointing back, right? Maybe light up some energy, lift the kneecaps a little bit of energy through the glute muscles, draw the low rib cage in, maybe extend the arms high into that 5-pointed star. And then we'll transition here into Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2. So coming into Warrior 2, you'll take your left toes and you're going to just spin them open. So point your left toes toward the top edge of your mat, that short edge of your mat. Knee is stacked, left knee is stacked over left ankle. And your right foot stays right where it is. So right toes are pointing toward the long edge, left toes towards the short edge of your mat. And from here, arms extend, and we take our gaze over the left fingertips. So you can take this as wide or narrow as you like. The idea here is to open up through the hips. So one common thing that yogis sometimes do, particularly if you're new to your practice, is your left knee sort of caves inward. You want to avoid that, so pull that left knee out, squeeze the hips in a little bit, and again, you can take the stance wider. We just want to make sure the knee is over the ankle for the left leg and do not extend the knee over the toes. And then notice if your shoulders, the other tendency is for us to take this position, right? See if you can draw your shoulders back so that they're stacked over your hips. Let's take 3 breaths here. Again, breathing in through your nose. Long exhale through your nose. And notice if you can constrict the back of the throat, making that ocean wave sound. So inhale through the nose. Exhale through the nose. And notice if your shoulders begin to get tired here, which they might, you can always rest the hands at heart center. You can always spin the palms up, draw the shoulders down the back, and then come back in. Okay, from here, begin to extend that knee on the left side. Take your left toes back to the front, and we'll just switch sides, coming into Warrior 2 on the right hand side. So this time your right toes point to the back edge of your mat. Left toes stay right where they are, pointing toward the long end. Then we take that bend in that right knee. So the heel of your right foot should approximate intersecting with the arch of the left foot. Right, so your feet are in a nice line here. And again, watch that that front knee doesn't cave in, but pull it out. And then pull those shoulders over the hips, extend the arms, roll the shoulders down, tuck the low ribs in a little bit so this belly is engaged, and then you gaze over the right fingertips. So we'll keep the lower body here for 3 breaths. Go ahead and take the palm of your hand in front of your mouth. Take a big breath in through your nose. Open your mouth and exhale like you're going to fog up a window or a mirror. Try that again. Take a breath in through your nose. Fill all the way up to the top. Open your mouth and fog up your mirror. This time we're going to do the same thing, but when you exhale, you're going to seal your lips, trying to keep that same sound like you would be fogging up your mirror. So take a big breath in. Keep the lips sealed. Exhale out. Keep so that your breath becomes like the sound of an ocean wave. Extending the arms long. And we'll come back, bring the toes forward once again. Maybe heel toe the feet in for a minute and give the hips a little shake, give them a little rest. And then go ahead and take that wide stance on your mat once again. Really nice. We're going to come back into Warrior 2 pose. And from Warrior 2, we'll transition into another standing pose, extended side angle. So go ahead and take your left toes back, pointed out toward the top edge of your mat. Bend in that left knee. Take your Warrior 2 position. And from here, we'll come into extended side angle. So in extended side angle, the lower body stays exactly the same as it is in Warrior 2. The difference here is we're going to take our forearm of our left arm and take it to the inside of that left thigh. So this is a good starting place. And the idea here is we want to spin the chest cavity or spin the rib cage up and open toward the ceiling. So creating space between the ears and the shoulders. So you don't want to dump in like this into that shoulder joint, but you have to press out. And this is a great place to start. You can lift the right hand up and over. So you're pulling back on that left hip, a little bit of internal rotation of the right thigh. And as this starts to become a little more comfortable, as your practice continues, you might decide to draw that right arm along the side of the right ear. Maybe if you have a block, you take your fingers, your left palm to a block on the inside of the left foot. You can stay here or take this here. And eventually, As you continue practicing, you may take your fingers to the floor, again, reaching here or extending forward. So all of these different little variations that we can use to help us sort of expand our practice. And our yoga practice is just that. It's a practice. We come back day after day, and each day our body feels different in poses. And over time, our flexibility and strength increases, and those poses can take different shapes. Most importantly, though, is breath. Wherever you land, make sure you can stay there long enough to breathe. And go ahead and we'll press back up into our warrior two. And then take the right toes forward, left toes forward, turn the right toes out, warrior two on the other side. And then coming into that extended side angle. So notice here if you're opening up through the outside body, but you want to keep some length in the right side of the body as well. So really try to lift up out of the chest, maybe sink a little deeper, send the hips towards your mat, right knee over right ankle, sink those hips down, lift up the chest, turn your chest open, and eventually if it's okay on the neck, you take your gaze up towards your thumb. Or maintain your gaze as you draw your left hand over your ear. Take a big breath here. Exhale out. Inhale. Let all your air go. And then we inhale, come back up, warrior two. So I'll go through with you one last standing pose for today. So we've gone through warrior one as it relates to Surya Namaskar B, warrior two pose. So the warrior pose is the Sanskrit is Virabhadrasana. So we looked at one, we looked at warrior two, we looked at extended side angle, and this last one we'll do is triangle pose, Uttita Trikonasana. We'll get into the last warrior pose, warrior three, when we do a segment on balancing. So again, take your legs nice and wide to start on your mat, toes pointing forward. And from here, we'll turn the left toes out, just like we would if we were entering into that warrior two pose. But rather than bending the knee, we're going to keep the legs straight here. You'll take a little tiny micro bend in the left knee. And you may want a block for triangle pose, either on the inside of that left foot, or you can place it and set it up behind the left foot on the outside. That's sort of just your preference. You can feel what feels better for you. So from here, left toes pointing toward the short end of the front of your mat, you're going to take your left hip, send it toward the back of the room, draw your arms out like you would in warrior two, and then begin to take your fingertips and reach toward the front of your mat as far as you can until you have to draw the left fingertips down, reaching for either a block on the high setting or the medium or low setting, or you can take the fingers all the way down to the floor depending on your range of motion. We have a slight bend in the left knee, right fingertip lifts. Again, we're really sending the left hip toward the back of the room. You can let the right hip, it'll be natural for it to sort of cave forward a little bit, and that's okay. We're still operating here in this mode to lengthen through the side body. And again, you can stay right here. You can take the gaze up toward the right thumb. Squeeze your shoulder blades together here. Draw your low belly in. Make sure you have energy in the legs. Slight micro bend in that front knee. Big breath in. Exhale out. Again, breath in. And out. And then you can begin to take a bend into that left knee. Rise back up. Press into the feet, warrior two. So we'll take that one on the other side. Taking your block with you if you'd like to use a block. And again, we're going to just turn the right toes out. Keep the hips square to start, lift up through the arms. And then you'll take that right hip to the back of the mat, towards what we were calling the front of the mat before. Extend the right fingertips way out in front of those right toes. And then you hinge at the hip. Right hip is drawing back. Right fingers to a block. Left fingers come up. Squeezing the shoulder blades together here. Maybe send the hips forward just a little bit. Continuing to breathe here. Holding these static poses builds a lot of strength, endurance. And then from here, taking a bend into that right knee, rising up, warrior two. Really nice. So as you go through yoga practice and different styles of yoga, these standing postures, so triangle pose, the one we just did, which is Utthita Trikonasana, extended side angle, and the warrior poses are all standing poses commonly used in various ways with different sort of transitions between and among them. But you notice they have sort of a natural way they flow together. So we often enter these poses from warrior two stance, either going into extended side angle, or sometimes we reverse our warrior two, straighten the front leg, and then flow into our triangle pose. So these are common ways that we transition among these standing poses. So from there, we'll just take a few minutes to stretch out a little bit, coming down to your mat, coming to hands and knees, tabletop position. Go ahead and take a breath in, cow pose, lower the belly, let the belly drop, lift the chin, lift the tailbone, exhale and round the spine. Inhale. Lift up, cow pose. Exhale, chin to the chest, push the mat away. One last cycle. Inhale, cow. Exhale, round the back. And then from here, we'll just take a seat. Take the legs out in front of you. Flex the feet. So we're sitting up nice and long. I'm going to turn to the side so you can see me a little better. Legs come out long. Flex those feet. Make sure the spine is really nice and tall. So sit up nice and straight here. You can come into staff pose for a minute. So planting the hands by the hips. Draw the shoulder blades back. Draw the shoulders down. Elbows toward the back of the room. And then from here, we'll just take a seated forward fold. Paschimottanasana, lift the arms up, inhale. Exhale, begin to take your stretch forward. So if you have access to a necktie or a strap or a towel or something, you can take that behind the feet. So keeping the spine long and the integrity in the spine is actually important as we forward fold. So what we don't want to see is rounding in the spine, right? You don't want your fold to come from your waist. Rather, you want the fold to come from your hips, your hip creases. So maybe that means you lean forward just a tad and you stay right here. Maybe that means you're here and you stay. So do whatever feels good for you. The goal here is just to feel some stretch in the backs of the legs into the hamstrings. You can always keep the knees really bent as you fold forward as well. Wherever you are, you'll take a big breath in as you lengthen out the spine. And then on your exhale, maybe you begin to walk the hands forward, hinging from the hips, not from the waist, right? Maybe sending the belly towards the thighs. Another thing that can be really useful here if you have really tight hamstrings is if you have a towel or a blanket or a yoga bolster, you can take this and roll it up into a tube and then place it right behind the knees. From here, take your strap or tie to the outside of the feet. Inhale, lengthen the spine, and then exhale as you begin to fold forward. Maybe you can reach for the feet. Maybe eventually let the head drop. Relax the neck. Using that breath, we imagine on that inhale, riding that ocean wave, lengthening the spine, and then exhaling out, folding deeper into your stretch. Another big breath here. Exhale out. On your inhale, you'll begin to walk yourself back up. And then from here, we'll go ahead and just take the sole of the left foot to the inner thigh. Sit up nice and tall here. Maybe take your fingertips to the mat. And maybe turn the torso just a little bit so that it's guided and square over the right thigh. And then from here, maybe you begin to hinge forward. Again, hinging from the hips. Taking that stretch. You can always place that blanket under the knee. If you want a little bit more of a twist, take the left hand to the outside of the right foot. Find your breath. 2 more long, slow, deep in and out. Begin to walk the hands back up. Take your left hand to your mat, fingers pointing out, and then you're just going to press up and lift the hips. So the sole of your right foot will come to the floor. You're coming onto the shin of your left foot. Just open up here. So I'm just opening up the body, coming into sort of a supported slide plank. And then go ahead and lower the hips back down and switch legs. Left leg comes out long. Sole of the right foot to the inside of the left thigh. Again, maybe take a little bit of a twist of that torso over that right thigh. Big breath in. We get long crown reaches toward the ceiling. And we exhale and we fold forward. Two more slow, deep breaths here. Breathe in. Exhale, squeeze every last drop of air all the way out. Breathe in. And out. And we walk the hands back up. Plant the right hand down. Lift the left hips up. Open up. And bring the hips back down. Go ahead and take an easy seat. Any sort of cross-legged position that feels comfortable. You can always raise the hips up, again, using a blanket or a block. That sometimes can feel nice under the hips and help you lengthen the spine as you sit up nice and tall. Drawing our hands to heart center. Gratitude for our practice. I hope you guys enjoyed our sort of focus on standing poses, and I'll see you next time. Together we say namaste. Really nice, guys. Stay tuned for another segment coming in the next several days.